What is up? Welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast, and today we are in trouble. Russia has attacked the Ukraine. One thing that has kind of been weighing heavy on the news the last week, and I've stayed away from it. I've been watching it in the background. I was waiting to see what would actually happen because until things actually kick off, it's all hearsay. But Putin took to the news yesterday and said military actions have been planned out and are in full execution. And then we see airstrikes and large artillery strikes on the Ukraine. Let's get into it. So Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, the leader of Russia, whatever you want to call him, he declared on his own, feeling like he could, that this territory right outside of about, I don't know what it is, roughly 20 to 50-ish miles from the Ukraine or from the Russian border was this independent area, and it was free. And I guess there's some extremist groups that he calls that's living in the area that he feels is trying to cause some power imbalances, and he feels that that's kind of a threat to Russia. It's just what I've seen. I don't know the accuracy of that. And he felt warranted enough that he could attack Ukraine military bases. That's what he did. It's reported that about 40 have been killed in the airstrikes that happened last night and into this morning. Following breaking news, it sounds like there's still airstrike alerts going off in the area, just letting people know that there is definite danger imminent, and also people are fleeing the city that was bombed. A lot of news sources are writing headlines calling our president, Joe Biden, calling him weak for not wanting to go to war and not wanting to immediately, charge up the boys and send missions overseas. And you're already seeing clips of people going, I just got my draft letter in the mail and all this dumb shit. Guys, hey, don't be stupid, right? It's not cool to go to war. You're not a Billy Badass because you want to go to war. Most people that are doing that have never been to any theater of war and don't know anything about it, right? So I can tell you, what I can tell you is I was around some Russian extremists at points in my life. And while you have them maybe detained or something like that, they never lose sight of focus. And this is just insight into how a Russian native person who has extreme ideas thinks. So let's just say, maybe a span of 10 to 15 years goes by and you've been detained and you've spent every waking moment dedicated to training martial arts to the best of your ability inside the confines that you can and hating the people that put you there, right? That's dedication. Now, are you right or wrong for your dedication to the hate and your dedication to the mission? We're not talking about that. I'm talking about the pure dedication of Russians when they set their mind to something. It's a different breed of thinking. You look at the Dagestanis in the UFC, like Khabib Nurmagomedov and all these other guys. Tons of them out there right now. Zabit, tons of them. And you look at them and you're like, why can nobody stop them? They're not charismatic when they speak. But when they enter the octagon or when Putin does something, everyone's taken aback, almost as if you can feel this power or this force coming off of them of, it's not dominance, but it is like when Khabib talks, he goes, I smash because I have to smash, And you're like, God damn, that's all these people think about. And then you look at like Russian prisons. It's the toughest of the tough that there is, right? Like, even if you're in there for lowly crimes, you get blindfolded, bent over, duck walking with your hands behind your back while you got a dog biting at your ass and barking at you the whole time. That's just jail for them. So, like, they're not in this space like we are in the United States of being, everybody should get in on this openness and this forgiveness and this, let's all just sit down and have a cup of tea together. They're not doing that shit. They're not doing that. So, Putin is wrong, right? This is not an independent area. He has no right to bomb this place. It is an act of war, clearly. And he's doing it to test the waters of his power. Now, it's up to the rest of the world as to how involved are we going to get this. Everyone's been saying there's a World War III coming, there's a World War III coming, there's a World War III coming. And now, in the time of fear and blasting fear and getting everyone scared and whatever, after this coronavirus pandemic finally broke, now this happens, and now people are, war, and how could we go to war, and we're all tied up on war. The last thing America needs is a war. I can tell you that. We don't need a war, especially in a conflict that we're not involved in. I hate to say this, the Ukraine is not a part of NATO, right? They chose not to be a part of it. So, therefore, we are not obligated to come save your ass. Now, are we seen as like the world police? Yes. Have I agreed with that stance for a long time? Not really. Is it cool that we use resources and stuff to help when shit goes down, when people need help? Absolutely. That's who we are as Americans. We help our, people in need. But at the same token, it's irresponsible to use resources that are already failing in our country to go save someone else's ass, right? That's just irresponsible. You don't poke a hole in your boat for what? Then you can't save anybody. If you're just drowning in the water, you can't help anybody. It's the old airplane method I've talked about 1,000 times. They tell you on an airplane, you as the parent have to put your mask on and shit before you try to tend to your kid. Because if you black out, you can't help nobody. We've been in a fucking pandemic crippling our financial structures, our banking structures, our businesses, our people, literally our population's mental health is fucking declining. And now all of a sudden, because the news tells us to, we should all want to just red, white, and blue. Here we go. 9/11. Never forget. Fuck all that, dude.
Since the day that Donald Trump became president, Democrats in Washington have told you have a patriotic duty to hate Vladimir Putin. It's not a suggestion, it's a mandate. Anything less than hatred for Putin is treason. Many Americans have obeyed this directive. They now dutifully hate Vladimir Putin. Maybe you're one of them. Hating Putin has become the central purpose of America's foreign policy. It's the main thing that we talk about. Entire cable channels are now devoted to it. Very soon, that hatred of Vladimir Putin could bring the United States into a conflict in Eastern Europe. Before that happens, it might be worth asking yourself, since it is getting pretty serious, what is this really about? Why do I hate Putin so much? Has Putin ever called me a racist? Has he threatened to get me fired for disagreeing with him? Has he shipped every middle-class job in my town to Russia? Did he manufacture a worldwide pandemic that wrecked my business and kept me indoors for 2 years? Is he teaching my children to embrace racial discrimination? Is he making fentanyl? Is he trying to snuff out Christianity? Does he eat dogs? These are fair questions, and the answer to all of them is no.
Fuck all that shit. This is not like a terrorist threat against us. Putin's not attacking us. I don't know why the fuck anyone wants to talk about Trump's comments on any of this shit. Who cares? He's not the fucking president right now.
Former President Donald Trump praised Vladimir Putin's savvy and genius amid U.S. warnings of an imminent full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine. And yet, even as he was doing that, Republicans and right-wing pundits claimed it was President Biden who was showing weakness. For more on this, it's time for a closer look.
All they're doing is clipping up little, snippets of things he said on different radio shows and making it sound like he's a fucking asshole.
And horrified. The only people who could possibly think this is a good move are those unemployed fringe weirdos who go on small-time radio shows, like this guy.
I went in yesterday and there was a television screen, and I said, this is genius. Putin declares a big portion of Ukraine Putin declares it as independent. Oh, that's wonderful. So Putin is now saying it's independent, a large section of Ukraine. I said, how smart is that? No, but think of it. Here's a guy who's very savvy. I know him very well, very, very well. But here's a guy that says, I'm going to declare a big portion of Ukraine independent. He used the word independent. And we're going to go out and we're going to go in and we're going to help keep peace. You got to say that's pretty savvy.
No.
Who's, praising Putin for what he's doing. Nobody agrees with what Putin's doing. No one across the world. Boris Johnson, who looks just like fucking Trump. It's crazy that he has a doppelganger in wherever the fuck Boris Johnson is, the UK or wherever he's living now. It's crazy that they look so similar. He comes out and goes, hey, this is fucked. And I think he had a pretty good idea. Cut off oil, quit trading with these motherfuckers, and, he's going to feel the wrath of it financially. Then what are you going to be? He's created all this power off oil and all this, trade embargo stuff that he's doing. Cut that shit off. Then he has no resources to go do what he's doing. Then nobody has to get in the war. I'm not saying Boris Johnson's a smart guy. I'm just saying, hey, that wasn't a bad idea. Light bulb. You could listen to that. Here's what we don't want to do. Like what we did, I think it was Syria or Yemen or maybe a mixture of the two. We all in the United States heard this story that this guy, the president of Yemen or whatever he is, was gassing his own people. And I don't remember the details of it, but everyone wanted the United States to step in and immediately take action against this guy. Because he was bombing, he was gassing his own people. How fucking dare you? And we get all these clips of people being gassed in the streets. Then it comes to be later, a couple years out, that wasn't necessarily accurate. Some of those things were, falsified or dramatized or whatever. It wasn't quite what we thought it was, and it was a good thing that we didn't all invade. So I think before you pick up your camouflage operator's cap or you start making signs to go down and protest a war that I don't think is imminent, ask yourself the question of what's really possibly going on. I can tell you from all the places I've been, military and civilian in my life, usually when something like this is going on, where it's an isolated incident far away from our shores and our media just wants to talk about it to no end, and it's meant emotional to keep you on a cliffhanger. It reminds me a lot of like the Boston bombing marathon where everyone was just waiting to find out, is more hell going to come raining down? And then you find it doesn't. And for those that go back after the event settles and you look, you go, oh, there was some major shit that snuck under the radar during all that. While this event that was being played out in front of us kept everyone's attention, there were some bills that got passed that kind of fucked me over. Now my taxes are going to be raised a little bit. Or, this is going on over here. They slid this bill in over here. And all that stuff happens when the media is having their circus frenzy. So pay attention to what's not really being discussed right now, especially here in the United States. I can't tell you what's going on in Russia or why he chose to do what he did. I can tell you I think that's wrong. That's not an independent area. You can't just go take shit from people that's not yours because you feel like you can. I'm interested to find out why now. Why is this happening now? And I'm a firm believer, the United States, sure, we can, if we have weapons and things like that we can give to the Ukrainian people to defend themselves, because the Ukrainian, leader declared martial law. They're getting weapons to veterans and people that know how to use them and shit, and they're like, hey, hold this bitch down. Let's protect our shit. So I'm not opposed to NATO and, other separate countries that aren't a part of NATO giving resources to help a country defend itself. The difference is, it's not our war to send troops on the ground and tanks rolling and airstrikes overhead. Those are all things that cost money. People nowadays like to think, oh, war is just a button that you push and boom, war goes off. No. You activate units. You pull members of the armed forces from their families. You take them to uncharted territories to go fight battles that you don't really know what's going on in. And then you take resources from the gas, the fuel and the ammunition and feeding and all these things that it takes to execute a war. So it's not as simple as President Biden sitting behind his fucking desk, mumbling and stumbling to hit a red button and execute war. We need to not be so bloodthirsty for a war, as well as we need to not be so bloodthirsty as to find an enemy to attack, right? Putin does a pretty good job of making himself out to be kind of an easily dislikable guy. But in the same token, it's like we don't really know what's going on over there. We're not there. We're not in that area. There's some people that are covering CNN and Fox News that claim that they're in the city 20 miles away from where the bombings happened. Well, I can tell you, if you're there just for a story, you're fucking dumb. I wouldn't be standing anywhere 20 miles away from where they were bombing shit. I'm getting the fuck out of Dodge. Fuck that shit. What am I going to be there for? For what? So I could be live when I get blown up? That's dumb. So that, to me, again, goes, well, why would you stay there? If there was live bombs going off everywhere, and I'm not hearing these sirens you're talking about as you're speaking live from the streets, and we've already seen it time and time again, these people pretend like these situations are so dire and so terrible when they're doing their live broadcast, and then they, the camera pulls away, and what was his name was standing in a puddle while everything else was dry. It's like, hey, it's theatrics. A lot of it is theatrics to keep your attention divided and kind of not knowing where to focus it. I can tell you, whatever's going to happen over on that side, of the European continent that they're fighting this shit on, it's going to happen. If they need your help, they'll let you know. So, to get into this whole, these people are idiots and this person's an asshole for saying this and this guy's weak and this person's a tyrant. It's like, hey, chill, man. Everybody chill. Because all you're doing is escalating emotions that's going to cause for more poor decision making. Yeah. I hope if you're seeing this in Ukraine, I hope you stay strong. I hope you know that there are people that genuinely care about this and that are, trying to figure out the right ways to support you to not cause more casualties, right? So, that's the other thing. If America or any other country was to come in and just start laying waste to Russia, how many people die from that? If we just come in and start a full-on war in the Ukraine, America rolls up, NATO rolls up, everybody rolls up, fights. How many people die from that? Even if it's a 24-hour war, how many people die? Is that what we want to do? Is there another way to do this? Now, he's already taken military action. He has to be held accountable for that somehow. How that will be, I don't know. I'm not like a political strategist or anything like that. I don't know. I'm not a military expert as far as I don't know what the ramifications are for taking actual actions of war against somebody when they're completely unjust. He attacked an innocent country, so I'll be interested to see how the world responds. I think right now everything's looking pretty unified, and Putin's gonna be pretty fucked here soon. So, hey, I love you guys. This is one I would say just keep your eyes on it, but stay objective to what the truth is. Don't buy into any emotional heightening type headlines or something like that. If something big happens, we'll all know it, just like we did when he actually attacked the Ukraine. But don't let this be another reason to be divided. I love you guys so much, and I hope you have a great day.